Thanks all so much. Hi, everybody. My name is Mackenzie. I work in university marketing. I am one of the folks responsible for student affairs, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about different ways that you can market your organization and your club like a lumberjack, and doing so with NAU brand in mind. So NAU's big brand, right? If we're going to zoom out, how do we want to be perceived at Northern Arizona University? And the feelings are welcoming, supportive, confident, authentic, respectful, and enthusiastic. And so those kinds of ideas can maybe help guide you when you're building out your club flyers, if you're running any sort of social media situation, or when you're talking to folks. Just remembering that is incredibly important. And when we're communicating with our audience, we want to think about things like word choice. We want to have short sentences. We want to have that active rather than passive voice. We want to be a little bit more personal than like an institutional tone. You can go ahead to the next slide, Meredith. Thank you. So I want you all to think about it, like as you go out and recruiting, I think about like, who is it that you would like to recruit? What is the personality of your audience demographics? If you're talking to prospective club members versus current club members, if you're looking for alumni and donors, those should all have a different voice. And so they're going to have different interests, they're going to have different needs, they're going to have different concerns. So for example, prospective club members, they might want to know what's a good date for them to come and meet you, right? Or learn what you're about. Whereas current club members hopefully already have the schedule of meetings involved. They want to know like what's next, what's on deck, what's to look forward to. And alumni and donors, they want to know more about what your impact is, what you're working on, and then they want to know how their funding has supported your club. And so not using the same communication style for each audience is going to be really important as you begin your work marketing your organization. So I want to give you all this tip, and this is also available on the website. We have an editorial style guide. So it's like how to write for NAU with NAU when you're using our logo. And it's really a helpful and great recommendation for folks who maybe don't feel like they are super savvy in the marketing arena. We have also on this page like our color palette and things like that. And so this is a really great tool to kind of talk you through that idea of voice and how to write. And these slides should be linked to these appropriate pages. So some examples. Like I said, active voice. Does anybody know what that means off the top of their head? The difference between active and passive voice? If you want to throw it in the chat, like an active voice sentence versus a passive voice sentence. It's like going back to some like high school English classes. Yeah, there you go. I bought an apple versus the apple was bought by me. Excellent. Yep. And so our club has had successes over the years versus our club is successful. She threw the tennis ball versus the tennis ball was thrown. Exactly. Some of those are just a little bit more exciting and engaging, right? It is also generally more concise, right? Shorter sentences, which is better for marketing. You all are like a key demographic. Think about what you are looking to read and the types of media that you consume. It's important that you keep it short and sweet and to the point, because you all know that our brains are getting pulled in 8,000 different directions. Probably just since I started talking 4 minutes ago, like 3 notifications on your phone went off and my dog's barking. And now I'm thinking about that. Like that's what our brains are doing. And so you as the marketer, as the one trying to get your organization's information out into the sphere, you have to be really mindful of that. And so those short sentences and that conciseness, getting to the point, is so important. So what are like the who, what, when, where, why of your club? What do you want people to know who are maybe interested in joining versus when you want folks to come back this year? I really appreciate this tip that I have heard so a little bit of background is I was part of Model United Nations when I went to NAU, and I was the public relations liaison, and I was creating all of the marketing material. And one of the hardest parts is kind of getting started or figuring out what I wanted to do. And so I love having the opportunity to find like my sister clubs at other universities, seeing what their social media looks like, taking screenshots, kind of making a mood board, figuring out how they're talking to their folks and what cool things they're doing. There's this interesting Model UN is the best club. I am a Munster for life. But sorry, I'm getting distracted by the chat. There's this interesting book I read that's called Steal Like an Artist. And it's basically about how if you find inspiration from several different areas and then create from there, you are creating something original by pulling pieces that you like from other places. And that's just really influenced my own strategies when it comes to marketing, and something that you all can use as well. And it's really helpful because as an organization, a student organization, y'all graduate, right? That's the ultimate goal. So there might be some turnover. And if you create, this idea of mood board and example posts or example flyers, that can just be shared with the next person who's taking it up. And so there's a bit of consistency through there. So those are some of my examples and tips and tricks. You can go to the next slide, Meredith. So the other big thing at NAU, and I am coming to you all working for university marketing, the big brand, right? Obviously, we want things to feel cohesive. We want students who are participating to know that they're with NAU. And so this color palette helps with that, because I know sometimes we see, a bit of like a highlighter yellow or a weird kind of gold that doesn't quite match. Here and on our website, we have the actual hex codes, or if you need the RGB color codes, these things can be plopped into whatever design system you're using in PowerPoint or whatever to give you the correct colors. And so we have our true blue and our NAU gold. Those are our primary colors, right? And then below that, we've got our secondary palette, which can be really fun for adding a little bit of accent to your materials, but should be thought of as secondary colors. The other important thing that I'm gonna say this in a few different ways. Accessibility is everybody's job, right? Making sure that the content that we are creating is accessible by all. And the other piece to that is that there is new federal regulation that is requiring accessibility. So if you're creating things like PDFs or flyers and you're emailing those around, it's important that they are made accessible. And one of the biggest things that we see is color contrast issues. And you can actually check that on the website and use a contrast analyzer and see. So folks who are designing, like, one of the worst things you can do is put gold on white. That's just a terrible color contrast. So if you're ever going to use gold as the color, white cannot be the background. You have to switch it. But being mindful of that is important. And it's also just a good design element, right? And even if you don't struggle with color contrast, it's just less visually appealing. It can be grating on the eyes when our contrast isn't correct. Even if you are able to differentiate between a gold and a white easily, it's just not as pretty. So one of the things that when we're designing our social posts, especially like on a screen, the gold and white does really glare. You can go to the next one. So this is like our little guide, and it shows you like what looks good against what. And so you can see here the various different colors that you are allowed. So the X indicates the color combination can be approved for both like a 12 or 9-point font. And then the 0 or the O indicates that it can only be for larger text. So for example, if you see that middle SUPI color next to the orange, the dark blue is great, right? You can use that at any size, but that white, you can imagine if that was smaller of a font size, it would be difficult to read, right? And so, for whoever in your club is going to be your main designer, have them just print this out and keep it handy. It's really helpful for me because I sometimes forget, but to be able to see it across the board really helps me when I'm designing. And you can also kind of start to see like the green color really only works with white because the blue gets too dark, the yellow kind of gets washed out. It's a really interesting sort of piece. And then you'll see down below that we have the accessibility guide linked from University Marketing. All right, now everybody's favorite topic is the use of NAU logos. So for a club or organization, if you are creating a piece for NAU, for your organization, and you want to include the NAU logo, the requirement is that you have your student organization at NAU. So let's keep using Model UN as an example. We want to call it Model United Nations at Northern Arizona University. So if you're creating material and you want that put together, that is how we want it to look. And so you'll see here that the different phrases, t-shirts, all that stuff listed out. And then linked, we have the Wyden Collective, which is NAU's asset manager. That's where you can find all of the logos that you are allowed to download and then type in your organization's name. So that's one of the most important things. If you are trying to be clever, and I love it, I love a good clever thing, and you want to use some, a photoshopped picture of Louis with a weird axe, going crazy, climbing up a mountain, doing some ice climbing with his axe or whatever, and you put that on a t-shirt and it still has our NAU logo on it, don't be surprised if you get a rejection email, because we have to protect the brand. There is an important piece to that of creating that cohesion, like I mentioned. And we want to make sure that we're sending the right messages. And so those sorts of things when purchased would get denied. So using your logo appropriately and in this way is the fastest way to get things approved. If you go to the next slide, I believe I talk a little bit about our some more pieces about the logo. There's this piece, right? Our logo is, for lack of a better term, our money maker, right? And so we want to make sure that it is not being impeded. It has clear space is basically what we want, that there is there's a specific minimum, and that is online, but it shows you here like how much clear space we should give around the logo. So no like weird resizing of the logo to make it fit inside this weird keyhole, anything like that. And then there are two different terms. There's something called a ligature, and that's where it's just NAU, right? Like the middle one is our ligature. The word mark is when we spell out NAU. Now, I want you all to think critically kind of about when to use what. If we're in Arizona, people know what NAU is. But for example, when I was in Model United Nations and I was competing in Montreal at MICMUN, people might not know what NAU is. And so it was better for us to have shirts that spelled out Northern Arizona University so that folks knew who we were. So I want you to think a little bit about, where is it that your material is going to show up and who's going to see it? We want to be proud that we're at NAU, right? And so NAU can be, Northern Alabama University, or I don't know, I'm going to make up all of these things. So using the word mark can be really helpful. Let's see.
So Mackenzie, one question is, the colors you mentioned, are they available in HLSA format?
Actually don't know what HLSA format is, but I can find out. I'll drop my email address and you can shoot me an email, Aiden, about that.
Okay, perfect. Another one is, if a club puts Northern Arizona and then their club name, how does NAU's marketing guidelines apply for that, especially with merch?
Good question. That is technically not our name, and so the guidelines apply less. I would question why you're not wanting to associate yourself with NAU in that way. So if your club is not affiliated with NAU, you're not getting ASNAU funding, you're not being supported by our like Salvador's team, like then, go for it. But if you are a club that is active with NAU, using our logo and using our brand is a really good benefit, and also helps show that recognition. So if we use NAU logo and it's approved for sports club, do we need to include sports club on the merch? There are different rules and regulations, and there actually are guidelines specific for sports clubs, especially when competing. I don't think that those guidelines are linked here, but our sports club manager has those, and I can get them over to this team so they can share it with you, Bella.
And then broadly, where can we find this information about the logo, specifications, and all of that?
Yep. I think Nancy dropped it in the chat. NAU.edu/marketing has most of this info, but I can find the specific page. So our NAU Brand Center, I'll drop that in the chat, is a very helpful place to bookmark. If it says yes, NAU is NAU, just the letters, is trademarked and registered. So if you are even using your own font to write NAU, that will come to us because that phraseology acronym is trademarked and licensed by the university.
And there are some marketing guidelines that you can find online as well. And these NAU student org logos for both student org, sororities, and fraternities can all be found in the Microsoft Teams as well as the website she linked.
Yeah. And then one of the other great things in the brand center is if you are using an NAU logo, we have partnerships with vendors who are our approved licensees who can print or embroider our logos to swag, to promotional material. And the rule is, especially when using our logo, that you have to go through an approved vendor. And so we can I will share the approved vendor list with you all, so you can keep that in mind. My favorite one that I use often is Pinnacle down in Phoenix. They have a really great team that helps build stuff. They're very reasonably priced, and then their shipping is really quick. I know 4imprint is also very popular, but I just wanted to kind of share the one that I use most often in my work. And then I'll find it in a second. I'll find that list of approved vendors.
Mackenzie, real fast, this might have got brought up earlier, but just confirming, a club could have their own logo. So for instance, I know esports has their like own logo, which is totally fine, as long as it says esports, not NAU esports. And then as like almost like a secondary logo, because I don't think if we go back there, the like a student organization at NAU is almost like a subhead, I guess you could say. That's how I interpret this too. Would you agree? Because otherwise every club has the same logo. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I agree.
Yeah, because you can design your own piece. It could say like karaoke club at NAU, and then and you're a student organization at NAU, or just karaoke club, and then you have this almost like a subhead.
Correct.
Cool.
But in your like logo design, that's where it's really important. If you can go back, Meredith, one screen, if you're like embedding the university brand logo in your own club logo, making sure that you respect the clear space rules and include our trademark and licensed piece, that will help with your approval process if you get those ordered. My recommendation is to design your logo to not include the NAU logo within it, embedded in it, because that will make it much more difficult to get approved. But to instead create your logo, and then underneath it, that's where you can put, a club at Northern Arizona University, and that's where the NAU piece is, if that makes sense.
We have another question, Mackenzie. If a club has old merchandise with the previous NAU club name, are they no longer allowed to sell that, or is there an option to grandfather out pre-existing merchandise? And even more broadly, how quick is this change of marketing? How quick are y'all hoping to implement all of this?
I actually don't know the answer to that.
Sounds good. So we'll check in with marketing and we'll let y'all know via Teams about that.
I don't
more
know if
specifically.
marketing is overseeing the selling of club material that way.
I can check in with my contact there. I've been in touch with Katie, but this
Katie Bell?
policy, I think so. Let me make sure. But the policy is live. They've already been reaching out to me if a club submits something for review of marketing to confirm that they are an organization and that the things are being utilized. So they're instituting things right now. But I'll message you, Mackenzie, who I've been chatting with.
It depends club to club, Max. I am not familiar with any requirements, but again, that might change depending on your organization. And like I mentioned, there is a benefit to using a larger standing organization to tie in. It adds that credibility. It adds that kind of like brand recognition across the board. So it's a bit of a design choice. But there is not a requirement that I am familiar with. Axes there are symbols that are not recommend. So Louis the Lumberjack is a big one. The axe head, you know, the one where NAU is within the axe. NAU Athletics actually owns that logo, and they keep that on pretty strict requirements. And then axes as well are generally not used, and those are in the brand guidelines as well.
Your club branding can be a different color than NAU branding. Those are two different things.
Yep.
So how close does an axe have to be an axe? Mackenzie.
Hard to say off the top of my head, but I think again, as long as like you're also not embedding NAU into it, it should be okay. But if you we do have those design review options available, and our team can review and give suggestions and thoughts and all that. I don't actually know what a halberd is, so hard for me to I know I was like, a fish does kind of look like an axe if you're really creative. But if you go to that last couple of slides for me, Meredith, there's one about the next one is for the shrinking of logos, and yeah. So we don't want to don't do anything with this. Basically, if you're using our NAU logo, no touchy, keep it visible, keep it easy, and make sure that you're not like changing out the colors or whatever, because it is a trademark and licensed, registered, all that good stuff piece. And then next one. So a couple of just easy ways that I would recommend getting the word out. Social media is great. Instagram is generally the one I recommend. I always recommend quality over quantity. So you don't need to be on every single social media site, especially if it's not sustainable. You want to do good things on one and push your audience in that direction. In general, the idea for like an Instagram is being active about 3 times a week is my, kind of just standard best practice. Club fairs are a great place. And then classroom visits are awesome. So if you've got professors in different places that teach classes that are aligned with your club, that can be a really great place to just stop in for the first, 3 to 5 minutes of class and make a pitch and a presentation. It's excellent public speaking practice for you as well. And then of course your True Blue Connects and NAU event calendar. And doing that 2 to 3 weeks in advance of your event is ideal for timing. If you give folks a little too long, they might forget about it happening. If you're too soon, folks won't have their schedule might already be filled up. And then asking for RSVPs and giving reminders is so helpful. And even encouraging people to add it to their planner or to put it on their Google Calendar can be great ways to maintain your RSVPs for your event. And then you can hit that next slide for me. So here are some of the marketing resources available to you. So nau.edu/widen, that has templates for flyers, for PowerPoint presentations, things like that. There are logos up there, and then there's photography like that NAU has taken that can be available for use. Our printing services website, you can do a lot of orders there for things like stickers or rack cards or business cards or posters or whatever on our printing services page. we, the marketing team can provide a design review at the link listed. That basically means if you want to check out before you go too deep in ordering a bunch of stuff for your club, you can upload your design files, and then university marketing will give it a review and let you know of any changes that we see and give you recommendations. And then for ordering promo and swag items, you can go to nau.edu/licensing for those rules and regulations.
Before we head out for break, there are a few more questions for you, Mackenzie. Eric is asking if we can't change the NAU symbol at all, you'd rather us not use it, just as clarification.
Correct. Yes.
And
you
then
can't, like, legally, you can't change the NAU logo. That's the rule legally.
And then Alex is asking, since he's representing the Logging Sports Club and they use axes frequently in their sport and it's a huge image of their club marketing, how do you recommend they move forward?
Yeah, I do think that that's okay for the logging crew.
Also double checking with
Thank
the
you.
sports team on your actual sports logos. To our understanding, every single club, whether you're a sports club, FSL, chapter, or anything, you're supposed to use the student organization at NAU logo. And sports clubs shouldn't have their own different logo, but we're following up on that. Just an FYI, and we'll communicate that with you very soon.
Yep, that is true. Yeah, it should be like Ice Jacks NAU is the vibe. Yes, Bree, on your bio, that's totally fine.
Alan is asking, do student clubs and orgs have access to all of the resources after being approved by NAU marketing?
You have access to those resources right now. You don't even have to be approved yet. It is all on the website.
Lila is asking on merch, can we write NAU with our own font with the trademark symbol with it?
Probably not. That is probably going to get rejected.
Where do we send merch designs for branding verification approval?
That one would be the design request link that was on that. If you want to hit the screen back, Meredith. Yep, that one.
Is the word lumberjack also trademarked?
It isn't. I don't believe.
Phoenix is asking, they have a previous sticker that says NAU, but it doesn't have the logo that they got through NAU printing last year. Is there anything wrong with those stickers and what should they do with them?
It is not ideal, but I would just keep using them. And then if you create another run, I would update that design.
Okay, thank you guys all for your questions. We will still be here during the break, but we're going to let y'all go.